All right, welcome everybody to the NFL Draft Rumors uh, episode. Got started a little late. Sorry, I had to get the dog to bed. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a look at some of the rumors that are going around. One of the best things that I love about the NFL Draft is all the rumors leading up and trying to decipher what is all going to be happening with those picks and try to sort out my mock draft. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through. I've got several different situations, rumors that I'm going to talk through, kind of give what they are, and then kind of give my validity to those, whether I think they will be happening, and just kind of work through the process. And then at the end, if you have any questions that you want to have, I know I put it out on Twitter, so I at least have a couple there. But if you're watching this live and you have any questions about whether I'm saying at this on that specific rumor, or whether you just have a general draft question, feel free to kind of put that in the comments, and I will answer that. So let's go ahead and get started. The first one is the New York Giants. They seem to be the team that has the most uncertainty around them. Pick one is probably going to be going to be Burrow. Two is going to be Chase Young, and it looks like number three is going to be Jeffrey Okudah. So now it goes to the New York Giants, and for the longest time, I have felt that it is going to be an offensive tackle. Everything that David Gettleman has talked about leading up has been protecting Daniel Jones, building a strong running game that, teams that run the ball are the ones that get to the Super Bowl, so on and so forth. So to me, it seemed like, hey, just take the highest rated offensive tackle and put him in there. But lately we've been seeing a lot of speculation that maybe it's going to be Isaiah Simmons. And I kind of scoffed at that because the New York Giants don't take linebackers. They haven't drafted a linebacker in the first round since Carl Banks in the 1980s. So, but if you take a look, and Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated put this out, it said that Gettleman, if you remember, he drafted Luke Kuechly. He drafted Shaq Thompson, both in the first round. He paid Thomas Davis big-time money. So David Gettleman has shown that he's willing to go linebacker in the first round. So that is definitely a possibility for that. It's been rumored several times that the Giants could be going with Simmons. Matt Miller of Bleacher Report has reported it. It seems like everyone has out there, all the experts have said that Isaiah Simmons is a guy that they really like. But then recently there's been intrigue about potentially taking Derek Brown. Hey, Tony Pauline on the 13th of Pro Football Network said that Derek Brown is the leader in the clubhouse. And then Art Stapleton, a Giants beat writer, said that Gettleman inferred that you can never have too much great players at one position, kind of speculating within the Derek Brown. And he's another guy, Gettleman, that has shown that they are willing to go double up and add that. When he was in Carolina, they drafted Star Lotulelei, they drafted Kawan Short, and then they drafted the next year Vernon Butler. So they've shown that, hey, not only have we drafted multiple linebackers, but we've also loaded up on the defensive tackle side, just continuing to add high-level draft picks. They drafted Dexter Lawrence last year, 17th overall. They traded a third-round pick for Leonard Williams. Maybe they go out and say, hey, you know what? Derek Brown is one of our best players. We feel he's going to be Hall of Fame. David Gettleman has long talked about getting gold jacket players, referring to wanting to draft Hall of Fame level talent at that high up in the draft. That's why they took Saquon Barkley last year or a couple of years ago. But when it's all said and done, another name that's popping out there is Tristan Wirfs. And Jason Lockenfora of CBS also reported that all the GMs around the league expect them to go offensive tackle. Wirfs is the name. Lockett Fora mentioned it. Matt Miller's mentioned it. To me, Peter King's also mentioned it. To me, I think I'm not going to be shocked. I am not going to be shocked with whatever David Gettleman does, just because he shocked me last year. And I think he's going to still go Tristan Wirfs, even though Jedrick Wills seems to be the consensus number one rated offensive tackle in this class. I know a lot of people have Mekhi Becton. I think Tristan Wirfs is a guy that David Gettleman will like. And that's why I sit there. Like Eric Snyder put in the comments, Wirfs over Wills, knows way. I agree with you. I have Wills as my number one offensive tackle. But from what Wirfs is the name that I've heard from several different insiders. I think he seems to fit. Gettleman's a guy that likes size, and Wirfs is a guy that's a little bit bigger. He's not massively bigger than Jedrick Wills, but he is a bigger tackle. He's got the right side. They've got Solder on the left side, so I think that's where it naturally fits. I know Wills is a right tackle too, so it doesn't matter. So, all right, so that's the Giants. Let's move on to let's move on to the Dolphins at 5. So we were going from 4 to 5 with the Miami Dolphins. Now, quarterback seems to be the logical spot of where they're going to go. And it seems like for 2 years, last year we thought they're going to go quarterback. They didn't. They passed on going with going on whoever they had at quarterback, and they skipped it. And leading into that, the last year the rumor I read was the Dolphins like Tua Tagovailoa, they like Justin Herbert. And so it's only fitting that coming into this draft, they're looking at with the 5th overall pick, Tua Tagovailoa or Justin Herbert. Now, I think out of those two guys, Justin Herbert's the guy that they want. Just because I have Tua Tagovailoa rated higher. I have him tied with Joe Burrow based on the film grade. But we're naive to think that the Miami Dolphins would, everyone's like, oh, hey, they can't pass on Tua. He's too good of a prospect. He's a better prospect than Justin Herbert. I agree with that, but we're naive to think that Tua is not going to fall because of his hip injury, ankle injuries, and he's had wrist injuries. He's a smaller quarterback. He's got multiple injuries, and he hasn't shown that he's durable. And so I think because of that, you're starting to see a lot of people mention that, hey, it's Justin Herbert. But recently, and this was pointed out by Jason Lockett-Ford of CBS, that the Dolphins really like Jordan Love, and so there's this speculation, and Tony Pauline said they've been high on him for 2 years, that they could pass on quarterback at 5. You don't take Tua or Herbert at 5. You don't take Jordan Love at 5. You wait. You take an offensive tackle. You take a Jedrick Wills. You take a Mekhi Becton. And you take one of those guys there, replace Laramie Tunsil, and then at pick 17, 18, you take Jordan Love. Or you use that pick to trade up. And I get that. If they feel that Jordan Love is just as good as Herbert or Tua with the injury concerns, why not wait, get a blue chip prospect? A lot of what everyone thought the Giants should do last year with Daniel Jones. Take a Josh Allen at 6 and then use your 17th overall pick on Daniel Jones. My whole thought process behind that, and the reason why I don't think the Dolphins will do that, is because if you have a quarterback that you want, you go get that guy right away. You don't worry about trying to trade up to get him. You just solidify your chance of getting him, and then maybe you go and you move up to get that tackle. So because of that, because of the Herbert speculation, I think that they go Herbert. That's one of the picks I feel I have locked in. I think they're going to go Herbert there. All right after the Dolphins, we have quarterback once again, and it's a lot of the similar situation to what we just talked about with the Dolphins. And as Eric Snyder pointed out, if they pass on Tua, they're going to be so sorry. Yeah, I agree. And I'll put that up there. I if you're paying the big money, sorry, the video just cut out. If you're paying big money to a quarterback at 6, at 5 or 6, you've got to trust that they're going to be there. And as much as I like Tua Tagovailoa, there's that uncertainty. He's had ankle surgeries twice. He's had wrist injuries. He's had the hip. I mean, we haven't seen it hip. That's, I think, the biggest thing. We haven't seen this hip issue, and teams can't see him. They haven't been, we saw the video of him working out and he looked good, but teams not being able to see him live, I think that's going to cause people to really question whether they, and give him that uncertainty. So that's why I think teams could pass on him, but who knows? Like I said, he could go 5 and I wouldn't be surprised by it, and I'd be okay with it. And I'd understand what they're going. All right. Getting back on track with 6 and the Los Angeles Chargers. The question is quarterback at 5 or offensive tackle. It seems to me that they are a team that will let the quarterback. I don't see them trading up. I don't see the Dolphins trading up for a quarterback. I don't see the Chargers. I think if the Chargers go quarterback, they're going to let one fall to them. They'll either take Tua or they'll take Herbert. But there is some speculation out there about Jordan Love. Matt Miller, also of Bleacher Report, mentioned that the Chargers have had a crush on Jordan Love. And, there's all this speculation. You hear all these national reporters say, hey, Jordan Love could be the 3rd quarterback taken. He could be a top 10 pick. And if a team like the Chargers, who feel, hey, we like this guy, we think he can develop, we have Tyrod Taylor, who we could start for his during that first year or half the first year or 3/4 of the first year, they can allow that to Jordan Love to develop. But there's also speculation that, hey, maybe they, Anthony Lynn, Peter King reported this. Anthony Lynn is bullish on Tyrod Taylor and feels that, hey, we can start with him for this year or the next year. And why don't we just load up on offensive line? They just traded away Russell Okung, and we just traded him away. We need a new left tackle. We've got a quarterback that's gone to the playoffs. We're a run-based team. Get the ball out quick. Why not go offensive tackle? Take Andrew Thomas. Take Mekhi Becton and solidify that offensive line. And there's a little bit of credence to that from what Ian Rappaport of NFL Network said when he said they've done their due diligence on Jalen Hurts and a 2nd-round option or a trade into the 1st-round option for him. So maybe they feel, hey, Jalen Hurts is a guy that we can win with in this league. We're not going to take him 6th overall, but why don't we take a tackle and then with our 2nd-round pick move up or take him right there? Once again, you can kind of sit and develop him for a little bit. I kind of compared Jalen Hurts to a Dak Prescott and hit a lot of the same things that I saw with Prescott when he was coming out of Mississippi State that I see with Jalen Hurts. So that is definitely something to kind of keep an eye on. I do think they're going to go quarterback here. I think this is a good spot for Tua. I think Tua in California, big name, a team that needs buzz. I think that's a place that they're really going to go. All right, moving down a little bit, we have the Cleveland Browns. And one thing to kind of keep an eye on is Cleveland to Cleveland. Ezra Cleveland, the offensive tackle out of Boise State, a guy that has been rumored to the Cleveland Browns for some time. Tony Pauline, back in February, said the Browns really like Ezra Cleveland. On the 13th of April, Peter King, teams view offensive tackle and really like Ezra Cleveland. Okay. Ian Rappaport, buzz growing that the Browns will trade down and take Ezra Cleveland. There is a lot of speculation that the Browns are going to be trading up. We have teams that are looking to move up. The Denver Broncos, the Atlanta Falcons are two teams that have been mentioned of moving up, whether it's to get offensive tackles, whether it's to get CJ Henderson. And if the Browns are willing to move up, if you think about it, the New York Jets are sitting at 11. They're a team that's going to want an offensive tackle. The wide receiver run is expected to go at 12. So there's teams, if they're wanting to get one of the first receivers, they can move up to Cleveland. And, maybe Cleveland says, hey, we like Ezra Cleveland a lot. We feel he's right on par with an Andrew Thomas. Maybe they like Mekhi Becton. Maybe they like Jedrick Wills. Maybe they like Tristan Wirfs, but all three of those guys are gone. Maybe Andrew Thomas is gone too. And they say, hey, why don't we trade back, get in some additional picks, and take a guy like Ezra Cleveland, a guy that I really like. I have him as my 5th rated offensive tackle. I have him basically even with Andrew Thomas. And I think Cleveland, he's not a perfect prospect, but I think his athletic traits would make him a good fit in Kevin Stefanski's zone blocking scheme. So I think, that would be a good fit, especially if they're not liking the players that are available there. Trade down. Now, that being said, I kind of think one of the tackles are going to be available here unless someone moves up. So a guy like an Andrew Thomas, a guy like a Mekhi Becton, I think would also fit very well what they want to do. So I think it all kind of depends on who the quarterbacks go ahead of them. All right. Sticking with the Jets, who I just mentioned, there's some speculation. Will they go wide receiver or offensive tackle? Whatever they do, it's going to help Sam Darnold, who needs help. They drafted Sam Darnold 3rd overall a few years ago, and they've never really done anything to really help him. Sure, they added Le'Veon Bell, but their offensive line has been a mess. Their best receiver was Robbie Anderson, and he's gone now. So they need to give him help. And so wide receiver seems like a strong possibility. And at this point, they would be the first to take a receiver. CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs. I think all three of them would be a good fit just because they need offensive line help. But Joe Douglas, their general manager, comes from Philadelphia. Philadelphia is an organization that loves to draft offensive and defensive line in the first round. So that basically tells you, hey, they're probably going to go offensive line. And at offensive line, they've added a bunch. Brought in, re-signed Alex Lewis. They brought in center from the Denver Broncos, who was their starting center last year, Connor McGovern. They've added some pieces, but the tackle positions still is a little bit of a work in progress. I know they got George Fant, another free agent from the Seattle Seahawks, but if the Seahawks are letting offensive linemen go, I don't think that's a guy that you can necessarily trust. So I think they're going to be one of the teams that go hard after a tackle. Okay? They brought in Andrew Thomas. As Tom Pelissaro reported, they brought in Andrew Thomas from Georgia to a private workout, had dinner with them before all the COVID restrictions came in. Peter King mentioned Mekhi Becton and Andrew Thomas as possibilities. Because where they're at, they're probably going to get that. If they want one of those top 4 tackles, and they're probably going to get the 4th one, I think Andrew Thomas is going to be that guy. But I thought that, and now you're starting to hear his name as potentially the number 1 tackle taken. I don't think they would be too picky if they got any of those 4. Thomas could start day 1 at left tackle. Becton would start day 1 at left tackle. Wirfs, Wills, whichever one of those 2, if they come to him, they'll be the right tackle to start right away. So I think they would be happy with all of those. I think the only way that they go receiver here, and Ralph Vacciano, and I butchered that, so I apologize. He mentioned they've been eyeing Henry Ruggs. I think they only go wide receiver as if those top 4 guys are gone, and they don't like Ezra Cleveland this high. They don't like they don't like Austin Jackson this high. I think that's the only way that they go offensive line. All right, just going down one spot to the Oakland Raiders at 12, or the Las Vegas Raiders at 12. Which wide receiver the Raiders will take? At this point, it looks like they are going to take a wide receiver. Albert Breer reports that they mentioned that teams mentioned them, that John Gruden's been looking for specifically a Z receiver, and that Jerry Jeudy is the prototype of what that is. Mentioned CeeDee Lamb it fits the gritty type that Gruden likes. Peter King said that Gruden wants a home run playmaker at wide receiver, but Mayock wants a high character guy, which means CeeDee Lamb. Tony Pauline reports that they're very high on Denzel Mims. So receiver seems to be the target here. Now, I think Jerry, if I had reading between the lines, I think their top target is Jerry Jeudy, just because the nature of what they need an explosive. Like Peter King said, Gruden wants a home run playmaker, and you think that would be Henry Ruggs, which I think they'd like him too. But I think Jerry Jeudy is the most polished of those 3, the most he's got the explosiveness, he's got the speed. It's not Henry Ruggs' speed or explosiveness, but he has that ability. And I think that, put him there opposite of Tyrell Williams. You got Hunter Renfrow, you got Darren Waller. You've got a good nucleus at that pass catching spot to help out Carr. But as I'm going to mention in a little bit, there's going to be teams. Denver Broncos are rumored to want Jerry Jeudy and willing to move up. So are the Raiders going to sit still here at 12 and wait for the receiver to come to them, or are they willing to move up a little bit to secure the guy that they want? I did a mock draft about a month and a half ago where I had them trading up to get the receiver to solidify that. And I had that being CeeDee Lamb. And I think whether it's Jerry Jeudy, I think is their first choice. I think CeeDee Lamb is their second choice. As Albert Breer mentioned, he's more of the gritty type that Gruden likes. I think his character checks out with what Mayock wants. Mayock wants high character guys. So I don't think they can go wrong either way. Judy's probably a little bit more explosive than CeeDee Lamb, but CeeDee Lamb is a contested catcher. Go up and get the ball, and I think he'll have a lot of success there. All right, I didn't have a specific thing to talk about with the San Francisco 49ers, but I've seen a few questions in here. Let's see. This first one is from Spy Nick Danger. Thoughts on 49ers trade rumors involving Marquise Goodwin, or thoughts on 49ers trading down from 13 or 31 to get more picks? I think they're going to stay at 31, or stay at 13. I don't think they're going to trade up just because they don't have a whole lot of picks. So to move up, they'd have to give up a bunch of those picks. I don't think they're going to trade down because they want to get an impact player here. I think where they trade down is 31. I would be shocked if they stayed at 31, unless somebody just falls into their lap at 31. I think they move out to get additional picks. They traded away a pick for D Brown, second round pick. They traded a third round pick for Emmanuel Sanders. They need to recoup some of those picks. So trading from 31 back into the second round, maybe picking up an additional third round pick or picking up a fourth round pick. That's what I think they do. I think at 13, I think what they want to do is get speed. And I think Henry Ruggs is their ideal target. That's who I think that they want. And if they don't get him and Jerry Jeudy's available, I think they'd be excited there. If both of those are gone, cornerback. If Ruggs is gone and Jeudy are gone and CJ Henderson is available, I think he's their pick. I think AJ Terrell is a sleeper pick. People might not like that, but I think he is a sleeper pick to kind of keep an eye on. Spy Nick Danger also asks, if top D-line or O-line falls to 13, will the 49ers draft blue chip over wide receiver? That is interesting because I've seen some speculation that Javon Kinlaw is a possibility for the the 49ers. And I kind of scoffed at that because I'm like, you already got Eric Armstead. He just paid money. You drafted Nick Bosa. You invested a high pick in Solomon Thomas. So they're going to want to try and keep him working in there. They've got a few other guys that aren't big names but have played well. Do you really need that? But, they like to draft and, load up that defensive line. We saw what adding guys like D Ford and Nick Bosa and have done to the rest, to DeForest Buckner and Eric Armstead, and that defensive line was a big, huge part in them getting to the Super Bowl. But they also need a cornerback desperately. So if a guy like if Ruggs is gone, like I said, if Ruggs and Judy are gone, I think they go cornerback. But I would think one of those two guys is available. Yeah, as Eric Snyder put, Ruggs to the Niners. Imagine Ruggs in that offense. That's why they want that speed element. Emmanuel Sanders, they went out and they got him, and I think that really elevated him. You saw what they did with Marquise Goodwin when Kyle Shanahan first got hired, and he was able to turn Marquise Goodwin, a straight line track athlete, and got him, some of his best season, statistics, best play of his career. And just imagine getting Henry Ruggs in there. True speed demon, elite speed, but he's also a better route runner than a lot of people are giving him credit for. Or I shouldn't say that. He's a lot more than that. He is a good route runner. He can do more things than just be speed. So, I think that is their I think that's their goal, and I kind of hope it has, because that'd be so much fun to watch. All right, one last 49ers bit. This is from Aiden. Staley getting old. Could see them getting a left tackle of the future if one of those guys is there. I could see that too. 31 in a few of my mock drafts. I actually have a mock draft coming out just pretty soon. I have them taking offensive tackle with that pick. I have them taking Ezra Cleveland. Is one of those picks where I think I didn't have Cleveland going just because I had one of the top tackles falling into the Browns' lap, and I didn't really have him going anywhere else. So I thought, hey, Cleveland is the athlete. I think he'd fit well at 31 into Shanahan's offense. Like you said, though, if one of those top guys fits, I think that could be very intriguing, because Kyle Shanahan, as we saw against the Packers, he just wants to run the ball. If he can throw the ball 8 times and just run it down your throat all game, he's going to do that. To do that, you need a strong offensive line. And as Aiden D said, it's a possibility. All right. Let's move on to our next topic. It is the Broncos moving up for Jerry Jeudy, or offensive tackle. There's a few teams that could be moving up. I think there's 3 main teams that I've been hearing that could move up. Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 14, Denver Broncos at 15, and then the Atlanta Falcons at 16. So these next 3 picks, 14, 15, and 16, are all teams that could possibly be moving up. And I'll talk about the Falcons in just a little bit. But real quick, Tampa Bay, I'll just kind of mention them real fast. They could move up. They're a team that everyone seems, and myself included, have been mocking an offensive tackle ever since Tom Brady signed with them. And because their interior line's good, they just need better tackle play. And Andrew Thomas has been a popular pick. Now it doesn't look like he's going to be there. So would the Buccaneers saying, hey, Tom Brady, he can move in the pocket. He's not a great athlete. He does best when he's clean. Bruce Arians wants to drive the ball down the field. So would the Buccaneers, knowing, hey, we're in this for the long haul. We're in for to win now. And so we need to protect Tom Brady. So if they're saying, hey, we're seeing these tackles go, would we move up? Jacksonville seems to be a team that is looking to move down. They seem that's the rumors that they could be moving down. So would the Buccaneers move up to 9 ahead of the Cleveland Browns, ahead of the New York Jets, to take one of those offensive tackles? Maybe it's a Mekhi Becton. Maybe it's Andrew Thomas. I think Andrew Thomas is a guy that would fit perfectly in with what they want to do. So I think they're a possibility. But like that, the Broncos, they're being rumored out there for Jerry Jeudy. And Albert Breer mentioned as a team that could move up for one of the 4 tackles. So I mentioned Jeudy. They could move up for a tackle too. Garrett Bowles has not been good. I joked in one of my mocks that he, against the Bears, I think he got called for holding 3 plays in a row. So I think that could be a team that moves up to potentially get a tackle. But they also want to protect and help Drew Lock out. And Woody Page and Daniel Jeremiah mentioned that the Broncos could trade in the top 10 to get Jerry Jeudy. And that's the speculation to add. They've got Cortland Sutton. They've got him to be he's their big contested catcher, really developing into a true number 1. They need someone opposite them. They thought that, they drafted Cortland Sutton and then they drafted the Deshaun Hamilton out of Penn State in that same year, hoping that they would eventually replace Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. Well, Cortland Sutton looks like he's replaced Demaryius Thomas. Now they need that guy to replace Emmanuel Sanders, and I think Jerry Jeudy would be a perfect fit for that. I think he is a very similar skill set and playing style to Emmanuel Sanders, but I think he is I think he's a much better version. So I think they'd love to get him, especially if they're hearing that the Raiders really like Jerry Jeudy. They'd love to trade ahead of their division rival to get Jerry Jeudy. So I think that's the strong possibility. Real quick, I'm seeing a question. A few of you have mentioned that the guards are terrible run blockers for the Bucks, but I think once again they're a pass-oriented team. I'm not saying that their interior line is all elite. I just think it's much better than at their tackle position, so that's why I think they can go there. Plus, like I said, the deep drops. Real quick, Spy Nick Danger once again. Is there a top blue chip player that might fall down past 15 due to a run on O-line or receiver? I think a guy to kind of keep an eye on is Javon Kinlaw. I have Javon Kinlaw as one of my top 10 prospects, or he's just outside of the top 10. Javon Kinlaw is my 10th rated player. So, and I think he's a guy that could very well go in the top 10. So I think a guy like him, where does he fit? Especially if the Jacksonville Jaguars trade out, there's not really a spot in the top 10, and then we see those receivers going, we see the tackles going, that he could fall down to 15. And as Aiden D points out, I have a feeling a lot of teams will prefer Kinlaw due to Brown. I like Kinlaw better than Brown. I have Kinlaw rated higher. I'm in the majority. I do. Yes, I have him. And I like Derek Brown. Don't get me wrong, but I think Kinlaw offers more. Derek Brown is powerful. He's one of the most powerful defensive tackles I've seen since Ndamukong Suh. But I just worry about his overall pass rushing ability moving forward. Too much of what I saw on tape, and I hope I'm wrong. I could be very well wrong, and I'll fully admit, I'll eat crow and say, hey, I was wrong. He is turned out to be a good pass rusher and provide interior pass rush. But I think Kinlaw offers a little bit more. And so I could see that, but I think when it's all said and done, Derek Brown's going to go be the first defensive tackle taken. I think that pushes Javon Kinlaw down. I think if he's available here at 15 and the Broncos lose out on Jerry Jeudy, they're not able to trade up. Maybe CeeDee Lamb's already gone. Maybe they don't feel comfortable taking Henry Ruggs there. I think Javon Kinlaw would be a good fit. Real quick, while we're still on this, Dre the Great says, how would you compare Kinlaw and Brown to Quinnen Williams? I kind of like that Quinnen Williams and Derek Brown comparison, just because Quinnen Williams wasn't the most dynamic pass rusher prospect either. He's strong, point of attack, just dominant up front. I think the best comparison I've seen for Derek Brown is Akeem Hicks. Akeem Hicks wasn't a great pass rusher coming out of college. I mean, obviously he was a day 3 pick. Took some time to develop, but he was a guy that once again, big, tall, powerful player, just like Derek Brown's 6'5". Akeem Hicks, 6'5". So bigger guys that aren't great pass rushers, but they've able to, Hicks has developed and used that power, and he's in the right scheme, and he's being able to do that and be a big, strong interior presence. I think Derek Brown's going to be similar to that. But I think it all goes to where he's going to be. But I do like that Quinnen Williams comparison as well. All right, let's move up to the Falcons. The Falcons, as was also mentioned in the chat about potentially moving up, they seem to be the team that is the most talked about moving up in this draft. And they seem not, I don't want to use the term desperate, but they seem, every person out there has mentioned whether it's CJ Henderson or moving up. Matt Miller, quarterback is the favorite position, with CJ Henderson being the quarterback they expect. Peter King says they can move up. Albert Breer mentioned them as a team that can move up. Tony Pauline has mentioned it. Ben Albright of Pro Football Network has mentioned it. It's just they are the team. It seems like it's a guarantee that they're going to move up. It's just to win. But we've heard this before. They made that one giant move to get Julio Jones, and so everyone just assumes, hey, once they lock onto a guy, they're going to move up. But I think there's just so much. I get that this is lying season, and they could be, all this smoke in that, but they need cornerback bad, and they added Dante Fowler, so pass rusher is not that big of a need. I've seen Javon Kinlaw mentioned to them, and yes, it's worked out for Julio. I've seen Javon Kinlaw as an option too for them to trade up for, but CJ Henderson's a guy that this summer when I watched him on tape, he was a top 10 prospect for me. And so as the season progressed, I didn't hear anything about CJ Henderson, and it kind of surprised me. Now we're starting to see more and more, and there's even reports out there that NFL teams, there's like a third of them that have CJ Henderson ranked over Jeffrey Okudah. And I don't agree with that, but it's out there. And I think CJ Henderson, you got Jeffrey Okudah, who's the number one wide receiver cornerback in this class, and I think CJ Henderson's number 2, and I think there's a good drop-off after that. And so because of that, I think teams that want corner, especially in this mid-round, they're going to go there. As I mentioned, I think the 49ers could take him at 13 if their receiver targets are not there. If a offensive tackle, if the Jets don't like the tackles or the receivers available, maybe their top receiver's gone, maybe all the top 4 tackles are gone, maybe they get CJ Henderson. But I think when I do my final mock draft and I enter it in the Huddle mock draft contest, I'm putting CJ Henderson with the Atlanta Falcons because I think they're moving up to get him, and I think they're going to be aggressive because that is one area on their team they are really hurting for. They need a true number 1 corner. While we move on, this is a good question. Spy Nick Danger. What is the fewest number of quarterbacks that might be drafted in the first round? I think the fewest that are going to be drafted in the first round is 2. But I think there's going to be more. Just because Burrow's going number 1. That's guaranteed. Herbert's going in the first round. Whether you like him or don't, I like him. He's my 3rd-rated quarterback in this class. He's going just because, he's had experience. He's been healthy. He's got the, he's the prototypical quarterback. He's athletic. He's big. He's got a strong arm. No matter how many times those guys have busted, they're still going to get drafted in the first round in the top 10. And I think I know Tua's going to go in the first round. I know that Jordan Love's going to go in the first round, but I wouldn't be shocked. I would not be shocked if only 2 quarterbacks could take it. I don't think it's going to happen. I would give it like a 2% chance, but I am if draft night comes and Tua doesn't go in the first round, and I'm not going to be surprised. All right, another quick question. This one is from Snipes 88 VA. Do you see a repeat of last year's draft with few trades and a second round run on receivers? I think I could definitely see that just because this receiver class is deep. And someone pointed out Yes, it's super deep, but it's not deep on Julio Joneses and Calvin Johnsons and that. You've got your top three guys, CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy, and Henry Ruggs. But then after that, there's a lot of good players, but they might only be good number 2 receivers. So teams might say, hey, yeah, we really like Justin Jefferson. We really like Denzel Mims, but we don't necessarily see them as elite number 1 guys. So we'll just pass on them and go get another receiver. That could very well happen, and that could push Justin Jefferson down. That could push Denzel Mims down into that second round. And then like Snipes said, you could just see a huge run on them. With the trades part, yeah, I definitely think we could definitely see not as many trades just because of the whole coronavirus situation. Teams are drafting on Zoom. They're having to, do conversations and exchange text messages, call people on their cell phones to make trades. And someone might say, hey, I don't like this. Let's just stick where we're at, take the best player available. I could definitely see that. I think we're going to see some trades. I don't think it's going to be trade mania. That being said, very well could. All right, one more question before we move on to the next one. Would it be wise for the Raiders to address a wide receiver at 19, taking the best defender at 12, and the drop off to the top 3? Very well. So let's look at this scenario. Say the Denver Broncos move up. They move up to 9. They move up to 10, take Jerry Jeudy. And the Raiders are sitting there saying, yeah, we like CeeDee Lamb, but we don't love him. We really like Javon Kinlaw. And we like Kinlaw. We're going to take him there at 12, and then we'll take Denzel Mims. Denzel Mims has been rumored to them. If I get it real quick here, Tony Pauline reports that they're very high on Denzel Mims. So maybe they really like him, and they say, let's get that defender, let's get that defensive tackle, let's get that maybe cornerback. Maybe they, CJ Henderson's there, maybe they go after him, and we take Denzel Mims at 19. That very well could happen. All right, let's go to a couple more rumors. Eagles. Everybody and their dog, including myself, has been mocking a wide receiver to the Eagles. They desperately need a second receiver opposite of Alshon Jeffrey, who's, injuries, contract, whatever it may be. Nelson Aguilar's gone. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside they took last year hasn't really didn't develop as quickly as they were hoping. So it seemed like everyone's just like, hey, let's just mock him a wide receiver. And I've done that quite a bit. Justin Jefferson has been there for a while. There's rumors out there. Brandon Lee Gowton has reported that they're aggressively pursuing a trade up to CeeDee Lamb. What happens if Jerry Jeudy goes to the Raiders? The 49ers take Ruggs, and then CeeDee Lamb's sitting there, and he falls, and it's getting to the Broncos. Maybe the Broncos are like, hey, we like CeeDee Lamb, but he's too much similar to Courtland Sutton. We want kind of maybe a speed element, so he passes. Now CeeDee Lamb's dropping a little bit. The Eagles could trade up. I think CeeDee Lamb on the Eagles would be excited. But as much as I have mocked a receiver, and they haven't gone out and gotten anybody on free agency, there's rumors that they were in the Brandon Cooks talks. I'm not going to be shocked if they don't take a receiver, just because Howie Roseman and this organization, they love to take offensive and defensive linemen. And as Snipes pointed out right here, I think the Eagles are going to trade back. I think that's a strong possibility. And the guy that I think they could trade back for is Michigan center Cesar Ruiz. Just because, once again, similar to what they did with Andre Dillard last year, they moved up to get Andre Dillard to be that replacement for the offensive tackle, Peters, and they had him sit for a year, develop, and now he's going to be their starter. I could see the same thing with Ruiz and Kelsey, their center. But that being said, this seems to be just, a strong possibility. As Dre the Great said, Eagles getting a receiver 100%. T. Higgins to the Eagles. I think Justin Jefferson, there's a possibility, as 80D says, I see Jefferson going before 21, and it's hard to find another guy who's good at value. That's the same thing. Justin Jefferson can go early. He could go to the Jaguars at 20. He could go to Maybe the Raiders pass on a receiver. He can go there. Maybe the Dolphins take him. The Cowboys take him. There is possibilities that he goes there. And then who do you got? Denzel Mims. I like Denzel Mims a lot. I have a first-round grade on him. But I'm not going to be surprised if he goes in round 2. So it all kind of depends. I think they're, another team. I think don't count out an offensive lineman. All right. Real quick, Spy Nick Danger asks, how many first-round grades do I have at receiver? If I look really quick, I think I have 5 off the top of my head. I have CeeDee Lamb. Okay. CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy. I have Laviska Shenault. I have Henry Ruggs, and I have Denzel Mims. Now, before you crush me on Laviska Shenault, I grade it based on film. I'm not putting in injuries just because the grades that I give is based off of traits that I see on tapes. So I can't say, hey, trait. Maybe I just need an algorithm to do it, but I don't know how. How do I knock a guy? Do I knock him around? Do I knock him 5 points? I don't. Literally, I'm being 100% honest. I don't know how to dock a guy for red flags off the field, medical red flags. So I have Shenault. I think talent-wise, he's a first-round pick. He's not going to be a first-round pick just because of his health issues. But I have 5 guys, and I have a few that are late first, early second, but I don't count them as true first-round grades. Issues with Jefferson. He was a guy that I had to watch more tape on to fully appreciate, and I think he's good. He's a good slot receiver, good hands, good speed. He does a lot of things great. I think he does a lot of things good, just nothing great. So I think I like him. I think he's going to go in the first round. He's probably going to be the 4th or 5th wide receiver taken, and I think that's good value there. All right. A couple more. Let's talk about the Saints. Jordan Love has been one quarterback that I have struggled to place in my mock drafts. I would not be shocked if he goes 6 overall. Not shocked. I would not shocked if I know the Jaguars have mentioned that they want to give Gardner Minshew a shot at quarterback. I'm not going to be shocked if he goes 9. I'm not going to be shocked if they take him at 20. I'm not going to be shocked if the Patriots take him. The Saints are interesting. Okay? Matt Miller reports a quarterback shouldn't be a surprise if one falls if it's value. If Jordan Love starts to fall, I like Jordan Love, but I don't see this huge stud that some people are talking about. I question his seeing defenders. He threw his 17 interceptions. Yeah, you can blame it on poor supporting cast. Yeah, you can blame it on the coaching. He would throw interceptions to underneath defenders so often this past year that it's a little bit alarming. His deep ball, you hear about how he's got effortless arm strength. That's true, but he sails the ball. He puts way too much air under his deep balls. I think that's something that can be corrected, but it's still another thing where he's got the arm strength to be able to drive the ball down the field, and he just kind of lofts it up. So those questions, I could see him falling, and I think the Saints would be a good landing spot because they need someone to replace Drew Brees. They do not want Drew Brees to retire, and then they're kind of out of luck and having to bring along a rookie. Yes, they put a first, second-round tender on Taysom Hill, but if they felt Taysom Hill was the true future of the quarterback position, I think they would have played him at the quarterback position more instead of Teddy Bridgewater last year. I think they just like his his role with that team. So I think if Jordan Love is available to the Saints, and I don't think they're going to trade up for him, but I think he would be a strong possibility there. All right, a few more questions before we move on to the last rumor topic. Is there a D tackle or DN that you like that would be a great second-round pick? Yeah, I think there is a few defensive tackles. I think it's pretty I think Neville Gallimore is a guy, another powerful, explosive guy. I think he has still a little bit raw. Justin Matabuke from Texas A&M was a guy that when I watched him this summer, He really kind of stood out to me. I know I mocked him early on in the first round. I think Marlon Davidson is a very intriguing guy. I'm not as high on him, but I think the NFL teams like him more than I do. A guy that played defensive end in their 4-man front at Auburn, but also slid inside to tackle. He's 6'3", 303 pounds, got good power, and that I think he's a good fit. I'm not a big fan of this defensive tackle group. Oh, James Lynch out of Baylor. Is a guy that I think to keep an eye on. He another guy that played as a defensive end in Baylor's 3-man front. Can kind of be moved around a little bit. I liked his his burst. He had a good burst out of that position. I thought he used his hands very well. High effort level guy. So I think he's a guy. He's not going to be a first round pick. Maybe he's a late second, early third round pick. I see 8OD is mentioning him to Carolina. You're seeing Matt Rule. He brought in PJ Walker as a backup quarterback. He brought in Robbie Anderson. He's looking like he's willing to kind of load up on some of his Temple guys, and now he's some of those Baylor guys. So kind of keep that in mind. Another question, Dre the Great. Do you see a running back being drafted in round 1? I want to say no. My most recent mock that's coming out this week, I put DeAndre Swift into the Dolphins. I think I don't know. To me, there's no Ezekiel Elliott. There's no Saquon Barkley. You look at last year, Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs went in the 20. I don't see a Josh Jacobs. I like DeAndre Swift. I like Jonathan Taylor. I like J.K. Dobbins. I just don't see them on that same level as a Josh Jones. That's why I tend to think that they're going to go in the second round. So, would it shock me once again? I've said that a lot. No, but I don't think so. Eric Snyder, Jefferson is criminally underrated after that combat performance, went toe-to-toe with the best receiver in the country and held up statistically. Yeah, I mean, I like the guy. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, the first viewing, I watched one game on him, wasn't a big fan. When I went to finish up the position, I watched a couple more tapes. I like him now. I just don't think he's at that. I don't think he's in that top elite version. I think he's a first round pick. I think he's probably going to be a top 25 pick. I think that's perfect fit for him. Is there a good cornerback or pass rusher in the second? It'll be around for the Titans. Cornerbacks, yes. In the second round, I think they could go a cornerback in the first. I've had Trayvon Diggs. I've had AJ Terrell there. A guy that I really like, and it all depends on what the Titans want to do with that pick. Do they want a bigger, more physical guy to replace Logan Ryan, or do they want more just all-around guy? I think one of my sleepers, and I don't think he's going to be a first-round pick, but I really like him, is the Auburn cornerback Noah Igbenogany. He's a guy that as soon as I watched him, his speed was effortless, his instincts were good. I'm a big fan of him. Tony Pride's another guy out of Notre Dame that I really like. As pass rushers, I don't think this pass rush class is that great. I know some people like Weaver out of Boise State and Highsmith out of Charlotte. Jonathan Greenard's a guy, I think in the second round it's going to be a good pick. Yetur Gross-Matos, I think he's going to be an early second round pick. Darrell Taylor from Tennessee is definitely someone to kind of keep an eye on in the second or third round. I think he's a guy that just, his junior tape was really good. His senior tape wasn't the greatest. So let's move on to the last topic. Then I'll answer a few questions before wrapping up. And that is Jalen Hurts in round 1. Jalen Hurts coming in this summer, wasn't a fan of him. Didn't think he had a future at quarterback in the NFL. Thought he was a running back. He goes to Oklahoma and actually and really showcases a lot. And a lot of that's the offense. A lot of that is Lincoln Riley. But he showed that he can be a pretty fairly accurate quarterback. And I always knew once I started seeing him, I put out a film room session. If you haven't seen that on my channel, go check that out. And I said I wouldn't be shocked if he was high first round pick. Now I don't think that anymore, but there's speculation that he could be a first round quarterback. I've seen and read that the Raiders really like him, and then there's reports out there real quick of right here, Ian Rappaport, Green Bay Packers. They've done their due diligence on Jalen Hurts. I've heard the Colts mention to him. It seems like Jalen Hurts is going to be a second-round pick. I have him as a third-round pick. I graded him out as a third-round pick. He's like my 106th, 107th rated player. But we all know that teams are going to fall in love with him in the meeting. He went to the combine. He got a chance to meet with all these teams. His leadership ability, his character, teams are going to fall in love with. Him off the field is what teams want out of their quarterback position. But that being said, he has to play quarterback. Do I think he's going to be a first-round pick? Okay, as Eric Snyder says, don't make me laugh. I don't know. I don't think so. But we saw Tim Tebow be a first-round pick. And that all it takes, and that's so cliche, it takes one person. And, as Snipes said, he could be the next Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson came in, and Lamar Jackson is I think a significantly better thrower than Jalen Hurts. Significantly. But his teams are seeing him run around, adding a different dimension. It's a copycat league. Some team may see that. I mentioned earlier, Jalen Hurts, to me, it reminds me a lot of Dak Prescott. I wasn't a big fan of Dak Prescott as a passer coming out of college, but he comes in, he goes into a perfect situation with Dallas where they're a run-heavy team. He doesn't have to sit back there and throw all the time, and he was able to develop. I could see Jalen Hurts doing that too. I think the perfect situation for Jalen Hurts, in my opinion, is the Colts. I think him sitting behind Phillip Rivers for a year, maybe the Colts take him in the second round, and he sits behind Phillip Rivers for a year. The Colts have got a strong offensive line. They want to run the ball, and he can develop under Phillip Rivers and then come in and kind of be that game manager and give him that running aspect. Now, would it shock me if the Packers took him? No, I don't think they're going to, because once again, I think they're a team that's all in, but something to kind of keep an eye on. All right, so that does it for all of mine. I'm just going to answer a few questions before we wrap this up. Right here, who do you think the Texans should draft? I think defensive line and pass rusher are the two biggest needs right now. Obviously, receiver. I think why they traded away I get why they say they traded away DeAndre Hopkins, but they need a number one receiver. So they've got 2 second-round picks. They're probably going to take a receiver there. Brandon Ayuk was a guy that I've mocked to them recently. I think, do they take a chance on Laviska Shenault and hope he can be their number one guy? T. Higgins is a guy that I think would be a good fit. He'd give him a contested catcher. Michael Pittman, to me, is one of the most underrated receivers in this class. I think he'd be a good fit for what they want to do. They don't need running back anymore. They just traded for one. So I think defensive line, I think secondary is an option that they can go to. So I can go there. Do you believe all the talk that Titans drafting an offensive tackle in the round 1? I think it's out there. I mean, Titans are a team, and I've done a lot of work with Titan Upload here on YouTube. And if you haven't checked that channel out, make sure you do it. He's doing phenomenal work over there if you're a Titans fan. And as I shared with him, they don't have a ton of needs. They made it to the conference championship game last year. And if you look at their needs, outside linebacker to complement Harold Landry, but they got Vic Beasley, so that's not a huge need. Defensive line, since they traded away Jarrell Casey, cornerback to replace Logan Ryan. So they don't have a ton of needs. Right tackle is a need too with Conklin leaving, but they got Dennis Kelly, who they may feel comfortable starting at right tackle. So I think they just kind of let the best player available, whether it's tackle, whether it's cornerback, whether it's pass rusher. I don't really like the pass rushers at the end of first round. I think cornerback's a sweet spot there. I think tackle is. I'm going to mock them in my upcoming mock, a little sneak peek. Isaiah Wilson out of Georgia. It seems like Wilson is a guy that that everyone's saying is going to be a first-round pick. And so that's maybe why I put him there. And I think he fits their physical run game. So I think that's a possibility. Another one, any chance Tua falls out of the first round? I think there's a chance. I think we are naive if we think that Tua doesn't go in the first round. We see this all the time. Injury issues can cause people to fall. And as good as they are, if a team is concerned about them in the future and you're investing a lot of money into these quarterbacks, I don't think it's going to happen, but it's a possibility. There is a chance. I've heard some first-round buzz for Pittman. I think the NFL likes him more than the media. I hope that I like him. I'm a big fan of him. I know Kyle Howell, one of our writers at NFL Draft Geek, is a big fan of him. Also, I texted him. He's our wide receiver guru, and I said, hey, what do you think of Pittman? Because I have him. He was a top 5 receiver for me at one point, and he's like, I love this guy. I think he's criminally underrated. USC had a lot of issues. I don't know if he goes round 1. I think he's probably a second, maybe, second round. I think would be a good fit for him. I really like him. Amick Robinson, another guy. Once again, I really liked him. I think he's more of a slot corner, but real physical, real feisty. I like him in the slot. I think he'd be a good fit. The biggest player that might be traded day 1 of the draft. I'm assuming you're talking about a current NFL player. And I think if an NFL player, there's 2 guys that are going to be traded soon, you think. And that's Yannick Ngakoue, the defensive end for Jacksonville, and it's Trent Williams, the left tackle. No, not Yannick Ngakoue. They say defensive end, and then Trent Williams, the offensive tackle for the Redskins. I think those 2 guys are not going to be on their respective teams next year. I think the Jaguars, they want to trade him for a first-round pick, but teams know they're desperate to move him. They don't have a whole lot of leverage. I think he's probably going to get traded to who? I don't know. Trent Williams, another guy that does not want to be there. But once again, teams don't really feel like they have a bunch of leverage. And those are the 2 guys I'd love to see. I like trades. I like teams having multiple first-round picks. So I'll be kind of curious to see where they go. Devin Duvernay, yeah, he's another guy. I need to watch more tape on him, but every time I watch Colin Johnson, anytime I watched anybody against Texas, Duvernay was really just flashing. So it's just, once again, the depth of this receiver. There's going to be guys going in the 4th, 5th round that are going to be 10 plus years in the NFL and being solid contributors. Let's see here. Where do you see Ruggs being drafted? Do you think he'd be a good fit for the Raiders at pick 12 or 19? I think he's going to be one of those. He's going to be one of those first 3. I think my landing spot for him is the 49ers. I think that's who Kyle Shanahan wants to add speed, and Ruggs is speed. I think he'd be a good fit for the Raiders, and I wouldn't be shocked if they take him. But like I said, I think they like Judy better, and then CeeDee Lamb after that. I don't think he falls to 19 because I think too many teams would like him. I think if Henry Ruggs fell past 13, I mentioned the Eagles moving up to get CeeDee Lamb. I think they would really move up to get Henry Ruggs. All right, this is a great question, Nick. The player that I'm most interested to see where he's drafted is Isaiah Simmons. I like Isaiah Simmons. And I could see him. There's speculation he could be the 4th overall pick to the New York Giants. And I can see that happening. Do I agree with that? No. I don't think that's going to happen. But then when I'm doing my mock, I don't know where he's going to go. Because I think could he go to the Carolina Panthers? Yeah, they value length and athleticism. Could he go to the Jaguars? Could he go to the Raiders? I think a lot of teams, and I read this with the New York Giants, is they were intrigued with him. Let's see here. They were it was from Jason Lockenfor of CBS. They said they were intrigued with him, but they were looking into where he fits. Just because, and I know Greg Cosell said this on the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, I think he's a guy that you really got to wonder, where is he going to fit? We all think, and myself included, hey, just put him at linebacker and run, but he's not. Does his best work when he's in space. So you don't want him getting caught up on linemen and that. So you kind of want to put him out there. And Clemson kind of used him as kind of a safety walking down in the box a lot. So I think it's one of those players that it's like, okay, if he doesn't go to the Giants at 4, where is he going to go? And where do teams view him as? Do they view him as a safety that they can move up to a nickel linebacker? Do they view him as a 3-down linebacker? I like Isaiah Simmons. He is one of my most highly rated players in this class. I have a high grade on him. He's my 6th rated player in this class. But he's another player. It's like, where do you put him? Let's see here. If you're the Eagles, would you trade for the Jaguars? If none is out the board, if you're the Eagles, would you trade for the Jags? Oh, DN, Yannick Ngakoue. I think if the price is right, Howie Roseman's a guy that like I said before, he loves to accumulate defensive linemen. You think they're set at the defensive line, and they draft a couple DNs. They go out and they sign someone. I think they'd love to get him, but they don't want to give up a first-round pick. And I think it's a lot of it. They know that the Jaguars don't have leverage. So I think they're being patient, and maybe they're hoping to get him for a second-round pick. So it could be a possibility if they feel that, hey, we don't like where we're at, let's maybe trade back a little bit. Maybe they're having negotiations with the Jaguars as it's leading up, and they're like, hey, we don't like who's available here. Let's just use this pick on Ngakoue and go from there. Snipes asks, what's the difference between Ruggs and John Ross? John Ross was more athlete than receiver, whereas I think Ruggs, playing in Alabama, running more of a pro-style offense, he's a better route runner. He's got more body control. He can do more things where John Ross, and plus he's bigger. He's bigger than John Ross. John Ross is a little bit smaller, a little bit thinner. Ruggs isn't small. I mean, he's 6'1"? Let's see here. I got it right here. Henry Ruggs at the combine was 5'11", 188. So I guess he's not big, but he's a little bit thicker. He's a better route runner. So that's what I see there. All right. Eric Snyder says teams are going to be happy with how far running backs have fallen. Plenty of good ones. I know everyone wants to say, oh, people are devaluing the running back position if they think you could just pass on them. I'm one that's like, why take a running back super early when you can get one later? And it's not because I'm devaluing the position. It's just the talent is out there, and teams are finding running backs in all these different positions. I think we're going to see those guys get pushed. I think the 2nd, 3rd round is where you're going to get a lot of these running backs and have a lot of success with them. Let's see. All right. Well, I guess that's going to do it for the questions. We're over an hour on this, so I appreciate everyone that participated, everyone that watched. I hope you guys enjoy this. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Check out my scouting report videos. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, at draft_Brian. Check out the work at NFLDraftGeek.com. Thanks for watching. Until next time.